Have you ever peeked into a classroom and just gotten a completely different vibe? In one room, you see kids sitting in perfect rows, all eyes on the teacher up front. But then, in another, kids are all over the place, some working on the floor, others at a table, and the teacher is just walking around. Today, we're diving into those two very different worlds, the traditional classroom most of us grew up in, and the really unique approach of Montessori. So, what is the deal with that second classroom, right? Why are the kids allowed to move around so freely? Why isn't the teacher lecturing from the front? And seriously, where are the neat rows of desks? Believe me, none of this is by accident. It's all part of a pretty radical rethinking of what a classroom should even be.
But before we can really appreciate what makes Montessori so different, we have to understand what it was created in response to. And for that, we need to talk about the traditional, or what some call the factory model classroom.
Now, this might actually surprise you, but the way most classrooms are set up today wasn't designed for our modern world. Nope. Its DNA comes straight from the Industrial Revolution. Back then, the main goal of school was pretty straightforward: to create efficient, obedient workers for the new factories. And when you think about it, it all makes sense. You've got the rows of desks, all pointed toward the single source of information, the teacher. The job of the student? It's to sit quietly, listen, memorize what you're told, and then repeat it back. The whole system is built on efficiency and making sure everyone learns the same stuff at the same time. How do we know if it's working? Tests and grades. And if you make a mistake, well, that's often seen as a failure, something to be corrected or even punished.
Okay, so let's punch out of that factory. It's time to step into a totally different universe. It's a space that Maria Montessori called the prepared environment. I want you to picture this. You walk into a room that feels incredibly calm, but it's also buzzing with this quiet, focused energy. Everything, the chairs, the tables, the shelves, is child-sized. The learning materials aren't just plastic toys. They're beautiful, they're inviting, and they're all laid out on low shelves where kids can just grab them. This is the prepared environment. It's a space built not for the teacher, but entirely for the child. So how does this actually work day to day? Well, for starters, kids are free to move around and choose what they want to work on. The teacher? They're not lecturing. They're more like a guide on the side, observing and stepping in to help only when it's needed. Kids learn at their own pace, sometimes alone, sometimes in little groups. And here's the kicker: no tests, no grades. Progress is all about observation and real, tangible growth. The whole point is to spark joy and curiosity, to make learning something you want to do. So we've seen the factory, and we've seen this incredible child-focused environment. Now let's put these two worlds right next to each other. This is where you'll really see just how massive the philosophical gap is. We're about to break it down element by element to see just how deep these differences run. It's pretty revolutionary when you see it all laid out. Okay, just look at this. Traditional education is completely teacher-centered. Montessori is child-centered. In one, kids sit still in rows. In the other, they move freely. One classroom has one lesson for all. The other has individualized learning paths. We're talking about a massive shift from focusing on just memorizing facts to actually understanding concepts. We go from a world of external discipline, do this or else, to a world of self-discipline that grows from within. And maybe the biggest one of all, we shift from a culture of competition to one of collaboration. This isn't just a slightly different way to teach, it's a completely different way of viewing what a child is capable of. So, here's the big question. Why does any of this matter right now, today? Well, because the world has changed. A lot. And the skills our kids need to succeed in the 21st century are totally different from the ones they needed back in the industrial age.
Let's be real, that old factory model was designed for a world that just doesn't exist anymore. In today's world, being able to memorize a bunch of facts is way less important than being able to think critically, to solve really complex problems, and to work well with other people. The game has totally changed.
And this is exactly where the Montessori method shines. Its whole design naturally builds the skills that are so critical today. When a kid gets to choose their own work, they're not just learning about, say, geography, they're learning independence. When they struggle with a tough puzzle, they're not just finding a solution, they're building critical thinking skills. And when they have to share a space and materials with their friends, they're not just playing. They are developing emotional intelligence, learning to collaborate, and building genuine respect for others. These skills aren't a special class. They're baked into the entire experience every single day.
So when you boil it all down, what's the one huge idea that connects everything we've talked about? It's a total flip in perspective on the roles of the teacher and the child.
Create an environment where children teach themselves. That's it. That is the absolute heart of the Montessori philosophy. The goal isn't to be a sage on the stage, just pouring information into a child's brain. The goal is to be an architect, to design a world that is so interesting, so engaging, and so supportive that a child's natural desire to learn just explodes. It's about empowering them to be the drivers of their own education.
So really, it all leads to this final fundamental question. What is the true goal of education? Is it to produce people who are good at following instructions, or is it to nurture curious, independent, collaborative human beings who can go out and build a better world? How you answer that question tells you everything you need to know about which of these two classrooms we should be building for our kids.